up, you guys? Welcome to the very first episode of A Mic in My Room, hosted by yours truly, Crow. At least that's what I'm calling myself nowadays. Before we jump into it, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what this project is and what I'm hoping to bring to the table. Basically, over the course of my life, I often find myself sitting with one of my close friends at the end of the night, having a really intimate conversation about whatever it is. And I'm sure you can all relate to that. Just being with someone that you have no boundaries with and you just go off the rails. You don't think about what you're saying, you're passionate about the subject, and it's just a win-win for the both of you, you know? Every time I find myself in those kind of conversations, I feel as though there's something said that someone else needs to hear. Like, I feel like there's something that someone else can learn from what this person just told me, or from what I just told them. And I started to think to myself, why not create an environment where I'm having those conversations with these people, these specific people in my life, and you get to benefit from the fruit of our conversation. This is simply due to the fact that everybody has something to offer. And when you pinpoint what it is they really get into and what really tickles their pickle, then chances are you're going to get something out of that. I'm 21 years old right now, and most of the people that I'm going to be bringing to this show are going to be in their early 20s. You know, we don't have it all figured out. We're going through it. We're trying to figure it out. But in this process, we're very aware and we're very open to learning and to growing ourselves. And I think this would be a cool place for kids to tune in and see themselves in these conversations and, you know, feel a little more connected to their fellow millennials, right? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce one of my closest friends, Saurav. He's a good homie of mine, day one friend from my time at Cal Arts. If you guys don't know, it's a small art school in Valencia, California. I'm not going to talk about him. I'll let him talk about himself a little bit. So, welcome, Saurav.
Thank you. That is very true. We are, in fact, literal day ones. We met on the first day. Well, my friend Crow is a musician of some accord. No pun intended to the accordion. But I myself am an actor, writer, currently just a cinephile. I would love to make film, but you know, the dream seems far away, as many do when you're this age.
Well, that's interesting that you start with that, because that's part of the topics that I wanted to go into.
Mm-hmm.
Was just to get right into it, I wanted to get your take on the idea of work ethic and, you know, balancing yourself between, you know, at this age, a lot of us, you know, we recognize we're not going to be this young for very long. Right. So we want to have fun, we want to kick it, we want to chill, you know, we want to do all that. But just like you said, we have all these aspirations that you can see in yourself, like wanting to make films, wanting to do all this stuff. Things that you know requires a certain degree of sacrifice. So how does someone like you, like, balance that feeling of, like, sacrifice and, like, work, ironically, is the thing you love to do, with, like, downtime and, you know, however it is you recharge?
Well, at this point, you know, it's a great question that you asked me, because I noticed myself, you know, just giving myself away to wasting so much time. And while I am working, what I'm working on mostly right now is just writing projects, whether they be screenplays or short stories, but um, I don't give them the time that they require, right? And I think that the balance of time is something that we're never gonna know, right? I don't think that there's a perfect formula. There's no formulaic way to devise how much time you can waste versus how much time you can use to condition yourself to do something productive. But I do think that for me personally, I need to definitely work more on my own projects because I spend way too much time seeking out distractions and not. And even though I'm seeking out distractions, I don't think I'm utilizing those distractions in the right way, because the beauty of being an artist is you can use your distractions to make art out of it.
So about being an artist, like, how much of you feels like this paradox that you're in is a personal affliction? Like, for example, I was just watching this like motivational video of that guy I was telling you about earlier. Basically, it was just a montage of like all these like really successful, famous people um, talking about their degrees of their success and how they got there. And there was a lot of similarities. A lot of them felt perfectly comfortable in just diving completely into their work like mindlessly. But one thing that I noticed is that a lot of them were also artists. Like, for the exception of Mark Cuban, they were all Mark Cuban, and like there was like a UFC fighter or something, but they were all artists. They were either like film writers, or they were musicians, or they were something of that nature. And like one of the actually, it was an Indian film, right? I forgot his name, but he was talking about how he just feels like disconnected all the time, and like sad and depressed all the time, and like he found a way to love people and connect with people, and he found a way to connect to himself and love himself by replacing all of that with just diving into his work like 100%, but like that same kind of like uncomfortable emotional place that you're in that drives you to work that hard, how much of that do you think is personal to like to specific people, to like people who want to do art maybe, or want to do something that's like creative? Of
Mm.
Mark Cuban wasn't an artist, but like being an entrepreneur requires like that's a debatably another form of art, that's a form of creation and creativity. So like think keeping that in mind, and like thinking about like the layman person who doesn't necessarily have that uncomfortable, like unsettling feeling within them, they still want to do something, but like they don't, it's not as like pressing or like inflamed and like infuriating, you know so like how much of that do you think is a personal thing with you, and how much of that do you think is like a human condition that can just be analyzed and just dealt with?
Well, um, I don't know what part of it can be analyzed. I think that, I mean, I know that there's something that could be. Just speaking on the terms of how psychoanalytics work, you could possibly find something within my past, which at the end of the day explains the way that I am right now. But what drives me every day, or what has been driving me off late, is just the fact that I want to lend a smile to those that care about me and that I care about wholeheartedly.
Mm.
And the thing is that I think for myself, I started out being someone that was very self-oriented, very self-centered, very self-important. And while I consider that to be an important process of sort of human development, I think that you need to value yourself before you set out toward your goal, because if you don't do that, then you're not working towards satisfying yourself, really. But I think that when you start from there and then work toward achieving whatever you want to achieve for the people in your life, that's a great motivating factor, because why I work isn't for those people, but what I work for is. and what I work for is to make sure that whatever it is that I put out is something that, can make the people in my life feel a little better, or, be proud of what it is I do, or, speak
And
about.
that's a super powerful distinction to just to give to the viewers real quick. Why you work in relation to what you work. Like that kind of like duality, right? So the why you work, you're only gonna get anywhere if you're working for you in this non-selfish sense. Like it's the idea that you have to work on yourself before you can fathom working on anyone else. Like, and that seems super logical. It seems super intuitive, right? But it's not really the frame that a lot of people come from in life, right? But you gotta have a solid ass fence before you go up to someone else's fence and try and act like it ain't shit. Is basically what I'm saying, right? So the why you work is like, are you doing what you're doing because you love it? Are you doing what you're doing because it fulfills you? Are you taking care of yourself? Do you care about yourself? Like is this something that you're meant to do? And even if it's not something that's like particularly satisfying in the logistics of it, like are you able to find joy in whatever it is and acceptance in wherever you're at, right? So there's the why, right? Like where you are at this moment, can you accept, love, and acknowledge it? Like, can you just be there? That's the why. You do this because like you need to. Like when I sit down and like work on music and like I'm recording or I'm like doing something tedious like fucking making my songs to format so I can put them on YouTube or like whatever it is, like I'm doing it because I just have this need to, because I have to. That's the why. But then the what is like what comes out of it, like being able to support the ones you care about, like being able to support yourself, being able to have these certain material things. Like the what is not less important, but it's simply another aspect. And like being able to just recognize that there is that why and what. Some people only see the what. Some people only see the, oh, it's important to like buy your mom a beach house and like take care of your family and like be able to support yourself and all that shenanigans, right? It's important, at least in this like Western, where we are in life, right? Like that's important, but that's still only a part of it. And the why is a significant enough part of it to recognize that there's both.
Right.
To recognize that there's the why, like it's for something that's like not measurable quantifiably, and then there's the what, which is like the result. It's simply the result of that. It's simply the physical manifestation of you being fully in the why. It's a cause and effect. There's nothing more or less, and that's why I just thought that was cool that you were able to just naturally like recognize that. Like it wasn't even something that you had to elaborate on, but I felt like I had to just for people to see it,
Right. Yeah, I mean, um, I think also that what it is it's funny that you state that. I feel like for those that are older than us, you know, it seems obvious to be able to realize that, but um, I think that the differentiation of why you do what you do and what you do is, it's a very skewed thing, and I think that the what and the why are often in relation, and I think people do realize it, but I think the what and the why are often in symbiosis, where they don't really seem to cause different things, but I think where it really becomes valuable is when they do take on different planes, where why you do is why or what you do holds more importance over the other, and I think that that's often lost in translation, where either one could be a very mundane answer, where, what do you do? Oh, well, I just work a job. Why do you do it? Oh, well, just want to make money. And while what you do could be very simple, why you do has to hold some meaning. And I think that people forget is that there needs to be a part of you that holds meaning in order for you to flourish and thrive.
I was watching. There's this show called Supernatural, and I mean the show is just one of those like, like TV shows like so low key corny like hero trying to save the day, brothers keep sacrificing themselves to save each other type shit. But there was this one particular moment that rings a bell in this conversation and what you were just saying about finding the why in what you do, even if it's mundane. And basically, there's this angel named Castiel who loses his angelness and has to be a human for a while. And he has like nothing. The humans that were his friends, like they can't be with him right now because he's dangerous to be around. It's a long story, but he's left on his own, right? And he's working at this job, and he's managing. He goes from being a clerk at this what do you call her? At this like little gas station or something. It was like a corner store. He goes from being a little clerk to managing the place, and eventually his old human friends who know his whole story find him, and they're like, "Oh wow, like look, what are you doing?" And he like goes off about how, as an angel, he doesn't understand these like human, at first at least, he's human like desires for like achieving and being and like all these things that like I can't even go into in a list, but it's just, these human afflictions because he's an angel. Just imagine a Zen ass motherfucker. They have their own problems in the show as an angel society, but like for the most part, they don't have these same kind of emotions that we experience. And for him being a human for a while, like it was so beautiful to see him say basically like he found just the most simple thing, and because like it was so new to him, like he was so committed and driven to just like being useful, like being meaningful, and like being able to contribute to this little gas station. Like he went from a manager to, he went from little sales clerk to being a manager to like running the whole place and to just like drilling it into the ground, and like and also the relationships that he gathered amongst his coworkers and stuff. Like he appreciated them so hard. And he had this one line, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like he found such a peace and diligence in just maintaining this environment, And it was like, I felt like that was a microcosm for the goal of being a human, Like having that level of gratification and satisfaction out of the most mundane tasks,
Right. But that begs the question of I just got burned. But that begs the question of well, how does that explain the the sort of part of life where you do have a set atmosphere that you can control, but you want more. I think the need to I think the need to okay, I think the need to by the way, we're very resistant to burn heals or burn marks.
Don't worry.
We're firebenders.
Yeah.
But
well, I'm low key the avatar, but I keep that under. I shouldn't have said that on
the
internet.
I don't think there's anything low key about proclaiming who the fuck you are. But anyways, I think what you just brought up about a couple minutes ago now, post burn distractions, is that where does where does it stop, right? Where are you satisfied? And I think that's more human, is the fact that I think most of our urge is to have our chickens counted. But then I think what makes us more human than angelic is that once our chickens are counted, we want more chickens to count.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what's brought us to this, stage in evolution, I feel like, or just like technological advancement. Is just that curiosity, that unacceptance of the void, of the uncertainty, just like wanting that need to understand, to grow. And that's something that I hear as a constant in just like any kind of self-development or like motivational writings or works, is that acceptance of like the natural state for a human isn't to be like cooped up. It's like what you are naturally, like biologically, is to grow. Like humans want to grow, to expand. And like, over centuries of misplaced violence and understandings, like our ego gets twisted into that. And that's why we have this idea that like we have to take from people in order to get, But beneath that is simply the desire to grow, which doesn't step on anyone, in real life.
Right.
It's just the desire to continuously expand, to like you said, like, get more chickens to hatch and get more eggs, But I think that also, but like, it's just about walking that paradox, because just as we were discovering, we just, quick, little like side note, so the context to the viewers. We just got back from watching this film about this poet who started off as like a little kid, and his dad didn't approve of him being a poet, and he went off and had a lot of adventures, XYZ, blah, 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 blah. Bottom line is, there was this one scene where he talked about how he didn't know what to do because he was recognizing that everything he has was just going to wither away and become nothing when he dies. And everything that he like sees in his life is arbitrary and just subject to change, and subject to impermanence. And I think that grasping for these more eggs or these like more things to achieve, like, is fine because that's our nature, but it'll turn into insanity unless we reconcile that with recognizing how arbitrary it is to get those things. You know what I mean? And that's just what life is becoming to me more and more apparently every day. It's a paradox. It's a balancing act, between more and less, between wanting and letting go.
Form and chaos.
Oh.
Shout out Jerry the Damager for all my hip hop heads out there.
And all this suffering that we go through is just us going through microcosms of that reality every day. Like, not having enough money for food, that's a microcosm of that. Our girlfriend breaking up with you, like, that's a microcosm of that. Like, you not like getting the grades that you need, it's a microcosm of that. All that shit is a microcosm of and even on the flip side, like, being in like the perfect relationship and like having everything go how you want it, it's a microcosm of that. Like, just feeling super comfortable and just feeling great with who you are and being in a really good place, that's a microcosm of that. Like, being like really joyous, like you're celebrating, you just had a big achievement, whatever it is, that's a microcosm of that. Like, they're all just like, they're all temporary,
right?
Good or bad, they're all impermanent,
right? And I think there's another part of the film that we just watched where the protagonist brings up the fact that life is as he beautifully put it poetically, I of course can't say it in Spanish because I don't speak the language, but
the whole movie was in Spanish.
It was in Spanish, a little bit of it was in French, and a little bit of it was in English, but it was about 80% or 90% in Spanish.
There was like 2 scenes in
right, but the protagonist states that life is permanent impermanence, and I think that in about 2 words, literally 2 words, permanent impermanence, shapes up really what you were talking about at length. And I think that to add to what you were saying, whatever the outcome of your wishes or desires or ambitions or goals or work-oriented travails are concerned, if things go one way, it is always valuable to know that they might always go the other.
Yeah.
And it works both ways. If things go positively, it is always valuable to know the amount of ways that it could go negatively. And if things go positively, if things go negatively, it is also extremely valuable to know the ways that it could go, positively in. And so I think it is paramount for one to know that, the arbitrariness of life, while anxiety-inducing, can be one of great, could be one of great support, because no matter where your life is headed, it could always go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And what's ruling it is just you living it.
Nothing. At least as far as we're concerned. And I think that's something that really set in with me when I had this one conversation with my dad very recently, like a week or two ago. I was walking home and I was just, having a phone call. We're talking about how, well, first of all, I like growing up and becoming a man myself, have has been starting to recognize my similarities to my dad and my differences, and it's really been interesting for me to look at those and start to develop and see who I am as an individual, and I also feel like we are recently becoming closer than we have been ever before. At least that's how I feel, it feels good. But he was talking about how, and I've also been witnessing all the work he's been doing on himself, and all this development work and all the work he's been doing on his business and all this shit, and he's coming to a point where he's starting to see it's tangible fruits of his labor. He's making money, you know what I mean, good amount of money that I'm not going to disclose, but I don't even know if I thought he was exaggerating when he told me, you know what I mean? I was like, okay, but he told me he only told me that so that he can tell me after that he doesn't give a fuck about that it took him until this age that he's at now to realize that balance, that that's just a byproduct of inevitability, it's just a byproduct of him working towards something, actually working towards something. And it made him cry because it was sorry to put you on blast, Pablo, because it was so right there in front of his face, but at the same time having it made him realize that that's not what he that's not what he really wanted, but it was more the ability to get to that place that's satisfying. It's that journey that's satisfying. That's what feels good, is that journey. It's getting there, it's that feeling. It's not that literal thing. And that good feeling can be there at any point in the journey, but it's just recognizing that. And it feels, to me, it feels like squeezing something. You're just you feel so good. You have your life in your hand in this kind of gooey, whatever color is more soothing to you, this gooey, but resistant, dense, not sticky thing, and you just squeeze it and you own it, and it's pushing back, but it feels good. It's like a massage on your hand. That's what that balance feels like to me,
Well, that's interesting to me because I recently found out how much my parents made over the year of 2015, and that is something that I'm not going to disclose again, but I'm confident over the fact that they, probably are more successful now, just owing to the fact that my mom is higher up in the company that she represents. Shout out Network Appliances. They control your life, but you don't know that they do. But with my mother, she's lived a very difficult life to begin with. She's seen things that, you wouldn't wish on anybody to see. And, there was a time in my life where we couldn't afford food. But, now my mother owns a house in Silicon Valley, which is by far the most expensive place to live in the U.S. And with my mother, there's this sort of tirelessness. There's this sort of willfulness to expand that always is persistent, and it's at times aggravating for myself to witness, because I, as a son, would like to have my mother just be able to inhale and exhale peacefully for at least an hour a day, but that's never possible because of how hard my mother wants to work. And I can't change that. But my mother's always very, very, very sentient about all of the things that started her off on her path, where she couldn't afford a pair of diapers and some milk for her baby. And that's crazy to think about, but it's a thing that I'm that I'm very sure that we are going to experience very soon. And by very soon, I mean, at least in about a decade, or at the latest in about a decade, And I think that it's very valuable that you bring up the journey, because there's so many things that my mother and I have seen throughout our lives, myself for about 21 years and my mom for about, whatever it is, 45, 46, that, that have changed our lives, but, step by step. But I think that maintaining a sense of devotion to what it is you want to serve is another important thing to look into. Because for my mother specifically, she knew at the age of about 26 or 27 that, she wanted to take care of her child and give him the best life that he could possibly have in her control. And in fairness, she has done that. And it took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of missed nights. It took a lot of, it took a lot of caving in as a woman, because in the tech industry, it shouldn't be hard for me to explain, but I am going to do it anyway, that it's a very male-oriented industry. And I think that all those things really added into the way that my mother is now, in that she's fearless, in that she's extremely strong because of how much it took to get where she is, and that she always knows where she can fail so she can constantly improve. And I think my mother also, like your father, realizes that the objective isn't really the money. The objective is the ability to provide, no matter what the paycheck is. The ability is to be able to balance all of these things in the tightrope that is life. And I don't know a lick of that yet. And I'm sure I'm not going to know a lick of that until, I don't know how long, maybe not too long, preferably. But it's something to learn from, definitely. And so, it's a marker to keep yourself within, and know that there is time. There is a realization of mortality, and there is a realization of things withering away and things not lasting. But at the end of the day, you're
there is this thing called time,
right, and it is still in your favor, as fleeting as it does seem, as much as it seems like it's not going to last, because that all of this blood in your heart is going to stop regenerating at some point.
I think that's something that it
will still exist.
It's something that we totally take for granted. Again, I'm 21 years old, you're 20 years old, and a lot of the people that we want to be speaking to, and I mean, whoever's gonna hear this is gonna get something from this. But I think it would be cool for other like people in our age group to like see what's going on in our lives and like in their own lives. And one thing that I've really been realizing is that we have hella fucking time. And don't lie to me, you don't really understand or think that. No one really does. Like, I was watching this, it was the same guy that I was referencing before, the YouTube guy I was watching last night.
Paul V?
Gary something. I don't know. There's V in it. I don't know his fucking name. But he was like talking.
Basically Eastern European, folks. He's very rich and Eastern European. I think that's what it is.
No, he's not Eastern European. He's not.
Oh, well, whatever. Fuck it.
He's some dude on YouTube. He's some guy from New Jersey. But, basically, he was talking to this chick who was like 22, 23, right? She's about to be 23. And the conversation got to this point that it was like being a millionaire by 25. You know what I mean? And he was like, what? Because you said that, I know it's not going to happen. Like, why even do that to yourself? What are you trying to prove? You have all the time in the fucking world. If I was your age, like, I wish I was your age, like, getting this bit of information that I'm giving you right now. Like, why not set a goal that's, like, 10, 15 years in the future? What does it matter? Time is actually on your side right now. It feels like it's fleeting because you look at everybody else and what they got, and you look at what, they have at certain ages, and you think it's something that matters to you. But it has nothing to fucking do with you. It doesn't fucking matter to you, And it's like that goes with any objective or whether it's like an internal like abstract objective, of like where you want to be in your head, or it's like a material objective of like a certain amount of things that you want, or just one specific thing you want. No matter what it is, like, why do you have to put an expiration date on achieving your goal? Like, why would you want to limit yourself like that, Like, especially at this age.
Right. That's that's extremely valuable that you mentioned that to me. I'm going to make sure to keep that as a mental pillar for myself and for a I guess a person of special interest. I think, so I watched this movie recently that I watched before in high school. It's called Before Sunrise. It's by Richard Linklater. If you haven't seen it, you should. Whoever it is that's going to pay attention to this thing. It is basically about being young, but not being very young. Being in your 20s and falling in love. And a lot of that has to deal with uncertainty, and a lot of that also has to deal with certainty in the sense of realizing what is there that belies you as an adult, but also uncertainty in the sense of what you don't know about what belies you, right? Where that there's this life you have to lead as an adult, where you have to blah 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 and blah 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 and blah 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 in order to live comfortably. Mm-hmm. And then there's the blah 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 and blah 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 of something such as love, or something such as self-interest, or whatever that is, right? And I think that there's often such a disconnect with that, where people feel that their dreams are offensive to their real life goals. Or however that dynamic works. And it's, for me personally, I think that it's the objective of being able to align those in some way. Yes. There's always a happy medium. And I don't think that young people realize that. I have many fears. I'm not very well provided for, even though that there is a certain level of privilege that I carry. I feel like also part of the problem is that young people, it's an particularly problematic affliction in this generation, because young people don't realize it subconsciously. And they trick themselves into thinking that they realize it. For example, like, they think on
a surface understanding level that, oh yes, you know, we do live in an age of individualism. We do live in an age of achieving whatever you want. We do live in an age of like, that's what's admired. That's what's possible. You know, it's like putting yourself in that mindset and going and getting it, right? But we are only because of like that over that like just overflux, just overflowing of that phenomenon, you know, like we have no room, we have no space to recognize anything that opposes that, you know, and it's become fantasized, it's become romanticized. It's like we see it in montages in Facebook videos and movies, like do what you want, achieve what you want. Fast forward, some guy like scribbling on a piece of paper. Fast forward, he's a fucking millionaire, right? Like that's not how it fucking works. You kidding me? Like, you fucking sit on your ass for 10 years and you don't fuck Coachella, right? Like Coachella my ass. You're sitting in your room with a fucking quilt, the fucking writing that shit and scribing that shit, like figuring it out. You know, like there's no room for play. Okay, that's not completely right. You know, you gotta fucking chill the fuck out here and there and balance that shit. But it's like still hard, you know. There's still a degree of, and that's what life is. It's not all fun and games. There's a degree of you know, struggle before you reach the place of balance. And balance isn't entirely struggle. Like when you're really like, there's a way to like work to turn work into play, you know, but it doesn't come overnight. And that's what people think they already have. People are out here saying like, oh yeah, like I'm on the hustle, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, like I'm doing this, doing that. Like I'm a fucking victim of that same shenanigans. Like I often find myself sitting down thinking like I'm not doing enough, and I'm like, I have this kind of facade that's like, yeah, I'm the guy who hustles, yeah, I'm the guy who like knows what's going on in his life, but in reality, I don't know what the fuck is going on, you know?
Hmm.
And I think the only difference between me and like someone else who's in my exact predicament is that I can at least say that I don't know what the fuck is going on, and I at least know that like if I'm gonna be like absent and lazy and like not go 100%, at least I'm doing that full-heartedly and with a complete awareness, and then I balance it with like coming back with like an equal level of insanity and velocity and doing shit, you know. But like I think that's the thing, is that people aren't always completely honest with themselves, and part of that is just about the time we live in, where like it's romanticized to be, you know, that kind of individual person, but then people aren't real with themselves in like realizing that in real life, when you do that shit that they talk about in the videos, it's years and years of discipline and tediousness and, you know.
I think a lot of what that has to do for me is the fact that I'm not afraid to say that I'm not necessarily very technically skilled. I'm more technically skilled than people within the training that I am in, but yeah, I'm still very behind the average American as far as what jobs I can get. And I had a panic attack realizing that about a month ago, where I was looking at job boards where they were looking for recent college graduates, or people who were graduating from college, and I just didn't have the skills that people were looking for. That's a very embarrassing realization, where you think that you're this person that can get all this work and support themselves, but you realize that when you look at job requirements and when you look at things that mandate your existence, you don't have the skill. And I think that a lot of why I was missing out on all that skill is because for years I didn't really look at that, and I didn't really value it, and I didn't really know what it took to be outside in the real world. And so I just stuck on to social media and forms of validation and forms of believing that the world is one way through the internet rather than the real world itself. And while I'm fortunate that I was able to realize my incapacities and inefficiencies and all of that before I could leave college, it's still a wake-up call as to where my generation lies, where, I think that a lot of us forget the amount of options that exist in the world because of how much we can just go into our own hole through the internet and through social media, through members that validate our lives.
And I think what's like ironic about that is that, some of the most powerful, quote unquote, internet speakers, or like, like people on the internet that I personally follow that like have had the most like influence on me are people who are telling me to get the fuck off my computer. Like I'll watch a video and they're like, why are you watching this? To like go out and take action. It's honestly like that Shia LaBeouf video that's like, yesterday you said tomorrow. That's the most powerful fucking few words I've ever heard. And you don't need much more than that to figure out why you've ever had any problem you've ever had. It's because yesterday you said tomorrow. And like, it's, some people who garner a certain amount of internet presence do it in creating this sheep following of fucking mindless internet zombies who are watching you change their makeup, and I hate that shit. Unless they're watching you change your makeup and you're telling them to go out and make their own makeup, I hate that shit. Like that shit. And there's some shit that's like entertaining, and I get that it's not all about just, shitting on the internet and all that jazz. Like, there's just such thing as just watching shit and having fun and following certain people and following their lives for whatever reason, But at the same time, if you don't have the mental willpower to pull yourself out of that and differentiate your life between the person that you're watching on fucking YouTube, like, what are you doing? Because that's not what's right in front of you. That's not what's right in front of you. And the people who I've garnered the most respect for, that I learn who they are through the internet, are people who tell me to get off my computer. But like those same people, like, or like that same phenomena, like, that's something that was given access to me through the internet, and that's why it's kind of ironic, and that's why it's kind of a paradox. Because there is still so much information and access and so much like
right.
connection.
With the internet, it's a place that it is kind of a point of. It's a very interesting flashpoint between distraction and information.
It just forces you to like, it forces the individual to gain the tools to have the willpower and the brain power to use it for what it's needed for, and use it for what it's entertaining for, but like not let it go overboard. And it's no less than like a drug, honestly, because it's just straight up firing off dopamine in your brain every time you fucking check a text, like straight up. So it's no different.
I can attest to that. I think also, I think a lot of things have become so accessible and so in the moment that we tend to forget that there is such a thing called time, And I think that plays into a part of why we think we're going to lose time once we turn 20 or turn 25 or whatever it is. Because everything is on such short notice that, we tend to forget that life is this kind of long thing. It might not feel like a long thing once you've gotten there, but to get there takes some effort. It takes a lot of safety, and takes a lot of, measures and luck to get there. But I think that the internet makes things so much shorter that we get very anxious about, okay, why hasn't this person texted me? What could they be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Are they okay? Are they alive? Are they cheating on me? You know, that we give, that we tend to forget that 40 minutes of time isn't a long time.
And I think we also are spoiled of the amount of information that we think we can get. Like, for like those same questions that you ask yourself, you know, like, it's only because we live in this time that we even think that we have any way of knowing. It's like the fact that... Oh shit, you scared the shit out of me. It's like the fact that we think we can know that is what pisses us off, that we don't know, and why we ask ourselves.
Alright, can I bum a cigarette?
Yeah.
Thanks, homeboy.
We're gonna take a slight pause.
That was our Jack John Klingbeil commercial.
A commercial break with roommate JJ Binks. But yeah, it's like our arrogance that we think we have any business knowing that shit, that makes us think that we need to, you know, like we know like a good amount of shit about what's going on in other people's lives. You take a Snapchat story, if you're really fucking creepy with it, you can check GPS location, some shit, you know, like there's a will, there's a way, you know. But at the same time, you know that like that's not even natural. You know, like back in the day, like you just had to accept where people were and what they were doing. And I think in that sense, at least, you had a bigger opportunity to accept people for who they are, because constantly worrying about someone else or what they're doing is just some reflection of your own insecurity, you know? And like that insecurity is what's marketed and fucking just attacked in our modern I don't know, just system and like view of the world. Like we fucking feed on the ego, for better or for worse. Like I'm not even trying to say it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just telling you how it is. Like you watch any TV show you watch, and like the TV shows that you watch that are like super compelling, you know, or TV shows that they're all drama oriented, whether it's comedy, whether it's action, whatever it is. It's like we feed off of this like human like dysfunctional condition of, you know, this myriad of emotions of like love and hatred and laughter and pleasure and sadness. Like no matter what genre of anything it is you're listening to, like for some reason that's what entertains us, you know. But like it becomes commoditized, and then as a result it becomes ingrained in like how we grow up and see ourselves. And then it's like, you know, all that shit doesn't have to be how you actually live your fucking life. You know, like you don't have to. We recreate it because it's fun for us. The drama, you know, the temptation, the habits, the whatever it is. Like we recreate it because that's what we see, you know, around us. That's what we see on the billboards. That's what we see on TV. And like we don't realize, I mean, because of that, we also see it in our friends and in our parents and our family, and then we think it's normal. But it's not like what it means to be a person. Like we're still like animals. Like what it means to be human is just to be, without all that noise, without all that shit, you know? Like that's what it means to be human. It's very abstract, but it's like we're so ridiculously removed from it. It shouldn't be that abstract. A dog doesn't think about how to be a dog. Why do we not know what it means to be a person? Why do we always ask ourselves that? No matter what state a dog is, no matter how sick or ill it is, or no matter what it's gone through in life, it's not wondering how to be a dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, also, you know, there's the fact of like being able to literally translate a dog. I think that if we could literally translate a couple anxious dogs, you'd realize that some dogs question their own existence too. But I mean, I get that. You know, I think that all of those things that sort of, you know, limit us or make us question our lives are more valuable than we think they are, because they aren't just plain questions. They're, you know, they're pathways to answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for me specifically, is a person that wants to make things off of themselves and you know, use their life as a sort of marker for change and self-realization. It's like, ow.
It burns.
Is that is that
We're trying to be all deep and shit, and JJ's just like
yeah, is very disrespectfully drunk. But I just, you know, I think that on the path of whatever it is, it's self-realization and self-acceptance. I was talking about this with someone else. I think that a lot of what has to do with whatever it is that you want to do, or just getting anything done, requires an amount of self-awareness. And I think self-awareness is being able to imagine yourself doing different things visually, whatever those things are.
Mm-hmm.
All those things that you didn't think you could do, you know, whether it be working some kind of job, or having sex with a beautiful woman, or, I don't know, playing a kind of sport very well, whatever it is. If you're able to visualize yourself doing that well and being okay with that visualization, then you are self-aware. And sure, that can be sort of understood as a very selfish way of looking at things, but at the same time, a lot of people our age tend to forget that, you know, we are important.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much of other that yourself becomes this crazy thing where you can't even sit still. I can't sit still with myself for longer than about 40, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, the quiet is something that's a very hard space to be in for myself, just because of how, you know, loud the world around me has become over time. And so I think it is for us to know that, you know, those points of uncomfortability, those points of discomfort are all part of the plan, are all part of, you know, achieving whatever it is that you want to in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the hardest things to do is just do nothing, you know? And that's one thing that I really would suggest people to do every day, is just to, like, sit in your room or at a park on a bench. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to sit in some, like, crazy meditation way. You don't have to clear your mind, none of that. But just fucking do nothing for an hour. Say nothing, be in complete silence, and you'll notice yourself, like, you'll notice your mind is going off and off and off, and you'll feel this sense of urgency, you know? It'll be uncomfortable. You'll feel yourself needing to do something, like, you know, like needing to go somewhere, needing to talk to someone, whatever it is. But did you ever stop and, like, wonder why we never do that? Do nothing? Like, why is that not part of being a person? It's only because of what our social conditioning has come to in this society, in this Western society. But in reality, that's, like, really important for your brain. Literally for your brain. And it's gonna work better, you know? And after you, like, aren't talking to anyone for, like, 2 hours and you aren't doing shit and you're just, like, sitting and just, like, chilling, like, your mind will start to realize, I have nothing to say, like, you're not gonna talk to anyone, there's nothing to do, and you'll just stop thinking. And that's the best feeling, you know, just to stop thinking for once. No one listening to this knows how to turn their brain off. That's a skill that no one knows how to do. It's a rare skill. And I'm not suggesting that it's something that you should just pick up. Like, it's not like, oh, you go meditate for a week and you become a Zen monk and, like, you figure out the secret of life. No, it's like, honestly, like, you're going to go through your days and maybe, like, for 2 or 3 seconds to, like, a minute, depending on, like, how long you've been practicing, you might feel that sensation of, like, just silence and comfortability in it, you know, and, like, bliss. But the idea is that as you do it every single day, it'll carry on with you, you know, and every little interaction and every little thing you do, it'll only become stronger. Your presence will only become stronger, you know, and it's like, you have to just be patient with recognizing there's no place to get to because you're already there, you know. It's like, nothing that, like, anyone can say is going to make anything click. It's just giving yourself that time every day just to be silent and, like, not try and figure it out, you know? That's like the only really direction there is, you know, is like, because it's something that's natural to being a person. Like, being a person is very comfortable because it doesn't eliminate fear. And it doesn't eliminate love and joy and fearlessness and bravery. It doesn't eliminate anything. All it eliminates is the extraness on top of that. The shame of being afraid. You know? The fear of losing what's making you joyous. That's the extra shit that's not natural. Anything in life experiences fear, like any creature or any animate living thing, you know, fear, pain, like comfortability, whatever it is. But the thing that we do as people is we put something else on top of that, and that's the noise. Like, that's what eats us up inside and, like, you know, makes people kill themselves. Honestly, it makes it unbearable, you know. And some people feel it harder than others. Some people naturally are just like, don't think about it too much. The trick is just to be real with yourself and not judge yourself. And for any person, and I strongly extra believe that any person who happens to listen to this far through, if you're the kind of person who listened to this point, or even if you skipped ahead and you're listening to this right now, it means you're meant to hear this. Give yourself like an hour a day. You can start with 10 minutes a day if it's really that serious for you. But fucking do nothing. Sit in silence. Talk to no one. You know? See where your head goes and don't judge yourself. And don't do it for an outcome. Don't think like, I'm doing this so I can feel this way. None of that. Because it won't work. There's nothing for it to work, you know? You only know when you do it because understanding only comes through action. So just trust these words that I told you because it's nothing more than a signpost, and take the action. And it looks like we're getting close to wrapping up this session. So if there's anything that you guys should get from this, it's to take that action. You know, give yourself time. Like when you're walking to your car, or when you're waiting for the bus, or you're waiting in line at the DMV, or you're like, you know, waiting for your class to start, like, start appreciating the silent moments. Start appreciating the times where you have to wait. And it just all goes back to that idea of time, that, like, time is on your side and we have a lot of it, but it feels like it's going so fast because we don't appreciate it, you know? Like, learn to appreciate those, like, really patient times, because if you're a young person listening to this, you're not going to be in this body for that much longer. And if you're an old person listening to this, like, you might not be alive for that much. No matter where you are, you might not be alive for that much longer. You know? No matter where you are in life, there's nothing wrong that comes from just appreciating sitting down and looking at a wall or looking at your feet and just being.
And also, if you want to prolong your life, you should not floss and drive.
We saw this guy on our way back from Santa Monica earlier today flossing and driving with a little blue flossing pick. It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and to all our young people out here, don't floss while you drive. It's probably not the greatest idea. It's
Exactly.
not going to prolong your chance to succeed and do what you want to do. You're probably going to end up in a car crash, and some cop is going to be checking a box stating the fact that you're fucking dead.
Moffed. Moms against floss driving.
Wow. That came up very fast. But anyways, yeah, I mean, what I have to say to sign off is the waiting game is a lot safer than you think. And I think that things don't have to come right here, right now. That's all.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you for listening to A Mic in My Room by Crow, also known as Ari Gamora, Ariel Gamora. It's like how my friends know me. It's my actual name. I don't really give a flying fuck what you call me, but I hope that you gain something meaningful from this conversation between me and my homie Saurav. And until next time, I hope you actually take into action these things that we have bestowed on you.
Yeah, boy.
Signing out. Deuces.
Peace.